Hello, and welcome to the first Preemie chat of 2026. Nice to see you all. I hope you're having a good day. This is a space created to connect and learn and share meaningful conversations about prematurity. I am your host today. My name is Jack Horgan. I am a proud Preemie mom, and we have a fantastic chat today. I can't wait to get started. But before we do, Preemie Chats is brought to you by CPBF. We are a parent-led charitable organization dedicated to supporting families, advocating for the needs of premature babies, and sharing reliable evidence-based education to help families navigate the short and long-term journey of prematurity. Now, whether you are a parent or a caregiver or a healthcare professional or a researcher or just a person who wants to learn more about preterm birth, thank you for being here. You are all welcome. We want to talk today about some wonderful things around prematurity, but I invite you to also go to our website at canadianpreemies.org, where you will find trusted resources and our latest projects, as well as just a community to share together. And that community has a goal of not only helping premature babies survive, but to thrive. So joining us today is a great guest, but we want to have you in our conversation too. So please feel free to get on the chat. In fact, do it right now. Why don't you just type in where you are watching or listening from? Maybe your bedside, maybe you're somewhere around the world. We want to know about it. So put that in the chat. And also, we will be doing a Q&A. So feel free to join in the conversation that way, and we will bring you into it. If you are watching this not live and it is recorded, you still can connect with us at canadianpreemies.org. So either way, you win. Right there is what's going to happen. Now, can we see where anybody is coming from? Let's take a little look, shall we? Oh, hello from Brantford. Very nice. Hello, my name is Sandy. Sandy, where are you from? Put it in the chat, would you? I'd like to know. Somebody's from Toronto. Everybody's here. Thanks for being here. That's fantastic. We have a fantastic guest today. Wow. Now, being a former preemie mom, I know about hard times in the NICU. I'm sure most of us do. We're going to talk to someone who knows all about that. This episode is called Holding On to in the NICU, Small Practices for Hard Moments. Our guest is a psychotherapist and a NICU family support specialist, and she draws on her ideas from her brand new book called Something to Hold On To. Kate Robson offers parents and clinicians and pretty much everybody in the entire world simple ways to cope when life feels overwhelming. This book that she has, which I endorse 100% because I've read it a million times and I love it, offers gentle metaphors, brief reflective practices, and practical tools to orient ourselves, especially during times of stress. So, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody, please welcome Kate Robson. Kate,
Hi.
here.
It is so good to be here. It is so good to see you and to be talking with this community that means so much to me.
I know it does. Full disclosure, people, Kate was my family specialist in the NICU, and I'm just so happy that she's here to share all her wisdom with all of us today. Kate, let's start with your story. You are a preemie parent and you spent some time in the NICU. Tell us a little bit about your story and your family.
So it all kind of started, if you can believe it, because I know I look so young, 21 years ago. 21 years
Wow.
ago. So I was pregnant with our first baby, and everything had been going quite swimmingly until, and this might resonate with many listeners, until things weren't going so well. And we ended up in the hospital with a 500-gram, 25-week and change baby. And spoiler alert, she is now a very happy 20-year-old at university, really enjoying it. But, those first months in the NICU they changed me forever. And some of those changes were difficult. I am grateful for many of those changes. But as you well know, these experiences, they have long roots. They will change you forever. So we left home with her. We went home with her. We then had a second preemie who was 32 weeks. But then I was quite sick after her birth. And all of those experiences, and all that time spent in various hospitals made me really want to give back to this community. So I ended up working at one hospital, Sunnybrook, with my lovely people there. And I was there as a family support specialist for about 12 years. And I also got involved with CPBF, which is such a wonderful organization, working on various projects over the years, and a lot of mental health focus, for sure, because that's something I care about a lot. And yeah, so it's interesting because I went into before the NICU, I had like a million jobs, but I was working in tech and doing all kinds of things. And, my life took a really, really big turn. Yeah.
It sure did. And it shifted into something amazing. 12 years being a family specialist in the NICU. That's incredible to me. Can you tell us more about, you became a therapist. What was that turning point? What made you go back to school and say, this is what I've got to do?
Yeah. Well, that's another gift from the NICU for me, really. There was a study that was led by Julia Orkin, a wonderful doctor from Sick Kids. And she really wanted to look at how can we make discharge home from hospitals better for families. And I so appreciated this study because it was acknowledging that this is, in fact, really difficult. Being in the NICU is really difficult. And then recalibrating from that environment to home is really, really tough for families. And part of the study was, we were doing groups using acceptance commitment therapy as a model. And I just fell in love. It just felt like a transformative model. It was a framework that helped me make sense of all these really challenging experiences that I'd had.
So, Kate, say more about that. Acceptance
commitment therapy.
Okay.
And so it draws from a lot of different types of therapies. And a therapist I knew at the time, I was telling her all about it, and she was like, oh yeah, it's old wine in new bottles. And I'm like, that's great. What's the problem with that? But so it draws from mindfulness, it draws from dialectical behavioral therapy, Buddhism, all kinds of wonderful models. But at its core, it's the idea is that we, as human beings, we can't escape what's tough. Tough things are going to happen to all of us. We are all going to have difficult times. And it's how we respond to them, right? We can add to our pain. We can do things to avoid these difficult moments. We can do things to push them away. We can amp them up, or we can learn about our own systems. We can give ourselves a moment, and we can respond instead of reacting, right?
I love
and
this.
It was, I could see in the moment, we would be doing these groups with these wonderful families, and I could see in the moment that people were shifting, right? That they were, oh, okay, this is it's okay that I'm feeling this way. It's okay that all these confusing feelings are coexisting at the same time. It is okay that I am both elated and afraid. And what am I going to commit to doing about it, right?
So there was such validation in that, and it
Yes.
makes people feel safe and heard and seen. What are some of the common challenges that you saw when you were in the NICU helping other families?
Oh, I mean, so many. And I will say one of the most difficult is living with that kind of uncertainty. And this is where something that acceptance commitment therapy can really help with, right? Because when we're feeling uncertain and we don't know what's going to happen next, that's such a hard place to be. And what I notice is that often people will try and force a type of certainty, right? So because the uncertainty is so uncomfortable, we will kind of push for certainty, but that certainty may not actually work for us, right? And so learning to be uncomfortable, learning to sit with the discomfort, right? Learning to tolerate the uncertainty, that can be a wonderful thing for NICU families. But I think it's one of the most difficult things about that time. Anytime you're in, being in hospital, not knowing what's happening next, not knowing when you're going to get to go home, right? Not knowing what are the long-term outcomes going to be. You don't know, right? And how we respond to the not knowing, that can really show up in our, day-to-day experience, our day-to-day well-being, our mental health.
Okay, so what can parents do to help themselves? Do you have some ideas?
Oh yeah. Oh.
Some ideas. I know I've come to the right place. There's a full book
I
on
do. Well, all of this, where we have to start is with a deep respect for our own systems and a deep curiosity about our own systems, because what works for me may not work for you. One of the metaphors that I use in the book is I talk about the idea of a ladder, being at the very, very top of a very, very high ladder. And I don't know about you. I hate heights. Hate them, hate them, hate them. And if I imagine being at the very top of a very high ladder and, you've got nothing to hold on to, you just feel completely so vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
And when we're in that kind of situation, what we want to do is get off that ladder. We want to be down on firm ground like that. But that may not be available to us, right? So what do we need to do to come down just one rung or two rungs, right? We might need to sort of honor our own systems. Like what is soothing to me? What kind of sensory experience can I invite in? Is there music I can listen to? Is there a trusted friend I can talk to? Do I want to talk to a therapist, right? Do I need to go on a walk? Walks are great. But what are the things I can invite in? Not to make the whole problem go away, because that's not how it works, but to make me feel a little bit more grounded, a little bit more in connection with myself, like I have something to hold on to, but so that I'm not feeling that terrible vulnerability, right? And so I come down the ladder a bit using my knowledge of my own system, and then, okay, I know how to do this, right? Another thing I talk about in the book is the importance of scaffolding. When everything is kind of, on fire around you, maybe we go back to the basics. So we look at, are we sleeping? Are we eating? Are we talking to people that we love? Are we getting support? Are we taking care of those needs, right? Are we getting some movement in? Not exercise. I'm not asking NICU parents to go.
Nope. No way. No way.
But a gentle walk, a gentle stretch, that could be really helpful.
A little bit of fresh air, a little bit of
Oh my
breathing, a
goodness.
little, sunshine if you can get it in
Yeah.
different parts of the world. In the book, in that latter chapter, which I love, you mentioned glimmers or glimmers as opposed to triggers. So those are those little nuggets that you hold on to that you were mentioning, right?
Yes. Deb Dana writes about this. So we're all, I think, very familiar with the idea of triggers, that there are situations, and this is something that a lot of NICU parents know a lot about, right? So some parents will say, just going back into the hospital, smelling the smell of the hand sanitizer, for example.
Oh.
And yeah, some people can't go to baby stores. Some people have a hard time being around pregnant women. And I want to hold all kinds of space for that. And so that could be there. We can also think about glimmers. So glimmers are the things that, and they can be very, very little things. They can be tastes, touches, sounds, movements, but that help us feel like ourselves, that help us feel, that felt sense of safety. That's, at least in this moment, I'm okay, right? And again, these are going to be very personal.
Very personal. In fact, I have your book beside me right now, but you can't, it's on a green screen. You may not be able to see it, but it is so soft, the cover of it. I'm not kidding you. I use it as a little stim here, just as a calming thing. So whatever floats your boat, people, is those glimmers. I love them. I remember a trigger for me after the NICU was the scanner at the grocery store. The beep of it.
The beep.
Could not go in a grocery store for a very long time.
Yeah. When you think about it, this is a bit of an aside, but I have to say this. I say this with so much love and respect for my NICU clinician friends. You're so amazing. You wander into these environments every day and do the toughest work, and I love you, But one thing that people will often say to parents in the NICU about, alarms is you just ignore them, And I just want to say, with all due respect, that's a really hard thing to do. Alarms are designed to catch human attention. So it's very hard to rewire yourself to not care about them. And in fact, that's not a good thing, because you get alarm fatigue. Then you stop paying attention to alarms. And the whole point of alarms is that they make you pay attention. So, but that's something that, and so that's something that's, people will often I remember talking about PTSD with some NICU families when they were outside of the unit, and they're like, no, 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 that's for people who've been through wars. And I was like, actually, no, it's for people who've been in really tough environments for a long period of time, and they've had to sort of deal with, stimulation on many different levels. And yes, many NICU families do come out of the NICU with PTSD or some other type of mental health issue. And it's not because they're weak, and it's not because they didn't handle it well. It's because it's a really, really tough place to be.
It is a really tough place to be. And I noticed in the chat, people are loving the glimmers, Kate.
Yes, glimmers. Oh my goodness, glimmers are
Glimmers all
fantastic.
day, people.
Yeah,
Glimmers all day.
yeah. Can
Speaking
I?
of, sorry, go ahead, Kate.
I just want to say one more thing about glimmers,
Sure.
because I was talking about this with a client a little while ago, that so many of these things that we do that bring us some peace, but I notice people, I do this myself, we kind of make fun of ourselves. We don't, we do treat them like they're silly, or, somebody was making fun of themselves for being like a little kid with a fidget toy. And it's just like, no, 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 these things work,
They do.
right? And why do only kids get the fidget toys? We should all have fidget toys, right?
We should all have Kate's book that feels really nice in your hands. Not that I'm, that's not an advertisement. That's a truth right there. But you're right. Like I need something to touch sometimes. I need something to ground me and to calm me, not just breathing or taking a walk, but some other glimmer too.
Yeah.
Let's talk more about supporting patients, families, all in the hospital. What can staff do?
Oh my goodness.
To support parents. I know there's many, but go.
Oh my goodness. I learned so much from the people I worked with. So many of them they just had this sort of very natural, loving sense of how to be with people in tough times. And I think what I learned, if I think about those people, they had big hearts. They were amazing listeners. And sometimes people will say, well, I want to do more. All I did was listen. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, no, that's everything, right? Active listening, attuned listening is amazing. I just saw a name pop up, Wendy Molesdale, and I just want to say, Wendy, I love you. And talk about somebody who's a really good listener. So she is a clinician in the NICU, and she such an attuned person. And yeah, she was one of those people I learned a lot from. And
before we go any further, everybody in the chat is saying your book is sold out at Amazon. Where should we get it? Can they click on your website or where else?
So a lot of local bookstores have it, and
great.
there's so if you go on the website, the link there will take you to this kind of local bookshop widget that will help. Indigo has it. I've seen stacks of them. By the way, if you do get it, if you're in a bookstore and you see it, take a picture and send it to me. I'm getting a little collection of this, and of these pictures, and I really love them. Just to see the book out in the wild is amazing.
I love that so much. A whole troop of us going to different bookstores around the world. I saw someone is from Brazil here. Go see if you can find one in Brazil, and then take a picture and send it back to us. Let's get back to more supporting families in the NICU. Let's talk a little bit more about active listening. How does that show up for you? As a theater person, it's making eye contact, repeating. What else? Body language. Tell me more.
Oh, all of that. I love how your theater and improv experience translates so well into therapy. They're very parallel tracks. They really are. I think, it's interesting too, because I have done some couples therapy, and one of the things that I work on with couples is this idea of active listening. This is also really wonderful for parents, right? That because so often, whether, it can show up in the parenting relationship, it can show up, between clinicians and families, because we come into it with this idea, I need to solve this problem. We need to solve this problem right now. And every time I do that, it doesn't work out so well. So what's better is if I can just listen, right? And so do exactly what you were talking about, that active listening. So, so somebody says something to me, I'm like, I hear you saying this, am I getting this right? Amplifying what they're saying. Oh, that sounds really hard. Okay, what happened next? Tell me more. And the more we can do that, so that the person can just tell their whole story, right? And that we're showing that we're interested, that we care, we're receptive, we're not just like, we're feeding back, we're asking good questions. And once people have that sense of feeling heard, seen, and understood, if they're kind of up here on that ladder, you can see them coming down. right?
All down.
Yeah. I often think of it, imagine if you're a little kid and you're kind of like, I smell smoke, and you're just trying to get somebody to hear you. I smell smoke, I'm scared, and nobody's listening. Imagine that feeling, how terrible that feels. So if we can give people the feeling of being heard, seen, understood, right? That's transformative. That's 90% of it. And
You
it
are
works.
fantastic at that, Kate. You hold space for people so well. That's why I know I love you and you're this amazing friend in this community. But for the rest of the world, they get to take this little book of Kate and put it in their purse because holding space for someone and being seen and heard and using these exercises with the book in the book are an amazing tool to have with you everywhere you go. And I've seen it already. I've been seeing a friend in one of the units in the city, and she's using it right at bedside. So thank you for that. What
Oh,
else can we do besides to that supporting staff? How about what can staff do to support themselves? How can they feel okay leaving the NICU or
oh
when
my
something
goodness.
happens?
I love that you asked that, because I think that, that coming into these spaces every day, and I remember, when I was working there and I didn't have great self-care practices at the time. And I would be consumed with anxiety, so much worry about what's happening with that family. And I would take that home with me. And I learned again from fabulous colleagues that, coming up with some kind of ritual, coming up with some kind of practice to close your day down, because you need to be able to be your whole full self at home as well, and carrying it doesn't do anybody any good, for you to carry this worry 24/7. And so it's funny because we did all kinds of things at the unit, to all kinds of programs and things like this. And this is the one thing that I feel like I got a lot of positive feedback about this. And it was a group effort. It wasn't just me, but we came up with these posters to put by the exit doors, so that when you were leaving the unit, as a staff member, you would have to see these. It was this sort of going home checklist. And we were just encouraging people, like, think about what was hard today, and let it go. Think about what went well today. Think about some of your colleagues and some of the good experiences you had with them. Give yourself a moment and be proud of yourself for the work that you did. And now go home, and
Don't stay. Get out.
yeah,
Take
and
the
then
hallway and go.
yeah, and then it's really important too, because there are, in most units, you can't wear anything on your hands or in your wrists. You have to be bare to the elbows, right, for infection control reasons. And so that can be a kind of a bit of a ritual piece, where it's like, I'm putting my rings, I'm putting my watch back on. Now I am home, me, right?
I love this, Kate. You're putting on your whole new, you're taking off the old uniform and putting on
Yeah,
the you personal who goes out of the unit and walks away from it.
yeah, yeah.
Your rings on, putting your coat on, whatever it is in your locker. I love this checklist so much, and every hospital should have this in every
It,
unit in the entire world, as
it
far as
can't. Well, we stole it. We stole it from the NHS. And they shared it, and we adapted it. We'll put it that way. No stealing, no stealing. But I do think it's a really good idea. And I want to share one more metaphor. This comes from Joanne Alfred, who was a coworker of mine and a nurse educator and the wisest human on the planet, also with the best laugh. I think those things go together.
mm-hmm.
But she would talk about putting on a raincoat, so that when she left the house, she would put on this imaginary raincoat. And so there's her true authentic self was always there, but there's this thin layer of protection, right? So whatever happens, so if you had to deal with somebody who was really upset at you, or, there was this thin layer of protection, so that nothing was landing on you. And then at the end of the day, she just, in her mind, before she went in her house, she would take it off. It would stay on the porch. And that is really good advice.
I think that could apply to anyone outside on their journey. If you're having a stressful day or you have a stressful job,
Mm-hmm.
whether you're in the unit or not, I love this idea of the raincoat. I'm
Yeah.
going to go get a whole bunch of them for my whole family. My daughter needs a raincoat. She certainly does. As a former preemie, she needs a raincoat sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, Tell us, give me another, I don't know, strategy that you would tell healthcare workers before you said leaving the unit, but any other tips that you would share?
Well, I think that um, uh, one is that you have an amazing community and work with that community. Something that my old unit was really good at, they were good at celebrating.
Good.
Actually, I think this is a good tip for everybody, but I think it's a good tip for NICU families as well, is that if you have reason to celebrate, please go for it. You know, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but if you have a reason to celebrate today, go for it. Find those moments, find those opportunities to connect, to be a community together, because the people you work with, they have your back, they understand what you're going through. That's one of the things I think, Fabiana has done such a beautiful job creating this community of preemie parents so that we can be that to each other. We can celebrate together, right? Because joy is good fuel, right? Joy helps us move forward. So find those opportunities for joy. I think that's really, really important.
I love that one. And I like celebrations and love
Yes.
things.
Yes.
You can't bring balloons into a unit, but if I could just strap balloons to me 24/7 and just give them out to people on the streets, you got to celebrate things in life. You never,
Yeah.
it's just good fuel, like you said. I love that. There is a question, Kate. Do you have some practical tips on how to cope with difficult news with your baby in the hospital?
I do. I have some thoughts, so, and this is something I talk about a bit in the book, that because sometimes when we get this news, and I just imagine it just washing over us like a big wave, right? And so what I would love to imagine instead is that, imagine that I'm sitting across the table from somebody and they're just putting some things down on the table, right? I don't have to pick these up right away. There's no rush. I can take my time. I can decide, I can pick up this thing. I can look at it, but I don't have to pick up anything that I don't want to right away. I do have some choice about how I'm going to interact with all this information, right? I think the gift of that it does feel very urgent. It does feel emergency. But if I can give myself a little bit of breathing space in the midst of that, that's going to be really helpful, right? So recognizing that I do have some agency about how I choose to hold this, I think that can help. I think that ideally, we have these conversations. Some clinicians are great at these conversations. Some are not so skilled, right? It's really wonderful if you can have a friend with you, or somebody, somebody there supporting you. That can be somebody in the medical team. You can, there are wonderful social workers who can be there to support you. But I think that feeling of being alone with really tough information is really hard. So anything that helps you feel less alone, really important. I say this knowing full well I'm such a hypocrite, because of course when I get bad medical news, I immediately go and Google it.
Yeah.
And I just build up more and more evidence that that's not a good practice for me, and yet I still do it. If any of you out there have better willpower than I do,
share them in the chat right now.
Yeah, I mean, stepping away from the Google is probably a good thing, because
Or the chat GPT, whatever the kids are doing these days.
whatever the kids are doing these days. Because that information, I used to go scouring, the internet for stories about babies like ours, and there weren't, especially with my oldest, there weren't that many babies like hers. So what I found usually, it amped up my anxiety, right? It didn't do what I thought it was going to do, which is give me information, give me knowledge, give me power. It actually exhausted me. So
less is more.
Yeah. But and I think the other thing is and this is always true of, this is just generally true always, 24/7. But if we can be honest about what it is that we're feeling, right? So often in these environments, we're trying to project, it's scary to feel vulnerable. We don't want to show that we're feeling vulnerable. But even if just to ourselves, being open with ourselves about what we're feeling, naming it, naming where it's showing up in our bodies, I think that's really important.
That's a huge piece that I learned from being in the unit. And I think I learned it from you, as a matter of fact, naming it and then feeling where, and I believe you would say to me, where do you feel it in your body?
Yeah. Is it showing up here? Is it showing up in your stomach? Is it showing up in your jaw? And then another thing that can be really, really powerful, and remind me after I'm done talking about this to talk about EMDR.
Will do.
But movement, right? So bilateral movement can be, and this is something that shows up in EMDR, but going for a walk, there can be, even if you don't have the time or space to do that, swaying back and forth. I can't really demonstrate this because I've got the headset on, but yeah, swaying back and forth. You know, when you kind of move around and you let your arms go around you and you kind of hit from side to side, things from Tai Chi can be really wonderful, but you want tapping. So there's that sort of EFT style in EMDR. We talk about something called a butterfly hook, where you can do this or this, and you tap like this, right?
So let's talk more about EMDR. I had to remind you, and I'm doing.
Thank you. Well, because I want to talk about EMDR, and there's brain spotting EMDR. There's all kinds of therapies that, but these are specifically for helping people recover from trauma, right? Mm-hmm. And when I did my EMDR training, I was like, this is cuckoo, but I was doing it because somebody I really respected was like, this is a good model. You should learn about it. You're working with people. You've been through traumatic experiences, and so I did the training. It was very good training. But that skeptical part of me was like, this is weird. And then I felt kind of guilty because I felt like my heart wasn't in it. And then, of course, when you do training as a therapist, you're always doing, the practical side with, you pair up with other therapists and do it. And I was like, oh, I'm probably screwing it up for this other person. Da, da. But I was working on something very specific. I was a very anxious driver. And so even though I didn't believe in the model, I thought it was all weird, I didn't get it, I felt like I wasn't committed, it still worked for me.
Wow.
Right? There's something about it. And with a lot of clients I've used EMDR with, and with friends and other people I know who've done it, it's one of those things like, if you read about it and you're like, this is weird, maybe try it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Try it anyway, give it a few sessions, because it can make a dramatic difference. So I just did the practicum, it was 3 shortened sessions of EMDR, and then I got in the car and I was driving. Now, did I love it? I live in Toronto. Of course I didn't love it, but
you did it.
I did it. I didn't feel sick. I didn't, I was able to do it. And that was huge for me. So if anybody listening to this is having those moments of, I can't go into the baby store because it's too triggering for me. I'm waking up at night with, really big worries about something terrible happening to my family. I can't be around pregnant people. If this kind of thing, or even quieter versions of it. But if you think that your past experience is getting in your way in some way, don't judge yourself. Of course that's happening. And maybe there's something you can do about it, right?
I have done EMDR, and it really worked for me. So yes, same thing. I thought it was a little bit different at the beginning, but it really helped. So be open to things. What does it actually stand for? There's a question in here, and I forget. So
eye movement desensitization reprocessing. So in the original model of EMDR, the therapist they might have lights, or they might just move their fingers, and your eyes will move side to side, and that's the bilateral movement. It's meant to sort of mimic what happens during REM sleep, when your brain kind of files away memories, right? And so when you do EMDR, the idea is that these memories that your brain is kind of holding open because to protect you, run from the lion. It's helping you understand, oh, this isn't a lion anymore. I'm not going to forget this. I can file it away, right? So that's what it does. So for some people, like I have progressives, and so if I do the eye movements myself, I'm like, wow. So this is better. Yeah. So this is better for me. You can tap your knees. There are a lot of options. Some therapists have buzzers, and that
I had buzz.
Yeah. So there isn't really right or wrong. You just find what works for you. And one thing I want to add, whatever the model of therapy, if you do decide to try therapy, and we can talk about how to find a therapist and all that if people are interested.
Sure.
But the model matters to a point. Like EMDR is a very specific model, and it's really effective, but it's the fit with the therapist that's the most important thing. And there's a lot of research that shows that you have to feel safe and good. You have to feel like, oh, this person's created a container, and I feel heard, seen, and understood within it. If you don't feel that way, I mean, maybe give them a couple of appointments, and I don't want to be cavalier about resources, but, try a couple of appointments. But if you don't feel safe, seen, heard, and understood, then that might not be the best therapist for you. It doesn't mean they're terrible. It means that they're not a fit for you. It also doesn't mean that that's something wrong with you. right?
Right. It's just not a fit.
It's just not a fit. And fit is really, really important. So you might have to, I know it's so much energy, it's so much work to have to find somebody and call them and make an appointment. But if you're not feeling it, try somebody else,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Get out. Get out
Yeah.
loud. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great tips. Let's talk a little bit more about the book because there are so many wonderful chapters in there. I'm going to play a little game with you. Intentional or not intentional? Okay. I'm just putting you on the spot. We're going to improvise. Okay, Kate? In
Okay.
the book is each chapter. They're very short chapters, very small. There it is up on the screen.
Yeah.
When I was in the unit, I could not read a full book, or when I was on bed rest. Um, I could only have small chunks of information, and
Yeah.
that's all my brain could handle. Was that intentional or not intentional, making the book small chunks?
Intentional.
Yay,
Yeah.
intentional people.
Yeah. I was, there's a fantastic book by, was it Casey Davis, How to Keep House While Drowning. And it is such a beautiful book, such an invitational, compassionate, loving book. And it's all about how in really tough moments, it's okay. Just drop the rope. Don't worry about folding your laundry. I mean, it's about a lot more than that. But and I loved how she wrote it. I loved that it's these snippets. She has a little kind of paragraph at the end of each chapter where it's like, if you don't have the energy to read the whole chapter, just read this. And I just thought, how generous, right? And even though this book is not just for NICU families or NICU clinicians or parents, but of course, I want it to be something that, of all people in the world, I really want NICU people to be able to get something out of this. So you're right. People don't have time. They're they're dealing with so much. And, people don't always give credit to NICU, especially people in the unit, how busy you are when you're an NICU parent. You're pumping, you're cuddling, you're coming back, you're going to rounds. So it needs to be short
Chunks of time. And for those of you listening to Kate, maybe on your ear pods, maybe your bedside, maybe whatever you're doing, Kate, you have such a soothing, calming voice that makes me so happy. My blood pressure goes down every time I call you, by the way.
Why, thank you.
Have an audio book of this book that people can listen to bedside or on their commute or wherever they go. Tell me more about the process, because I've never written a book or done an audio book. What was that like, doing the audio part of this, and how can people get it?
Okay, so before I say that, and remind me, because I do want to answer that question, because I think it's funny. But in terms of how the book came to be, and I'm going to put you in the spot now, because there was a moment, I feel like it was in 2021, and sitting with you and our friend Sarah, and we were imagining, we were talking about what we wanted to do. And that, because I felt so safe in that friendship with you both, I was able to say out loud, I have an idea, and I think I would like to work on it. And in the safety of that friendship, I could bring that out. And then the two of you were so amazing. And so I was like, I could do this. And so I started working on it. And so I just want to say, for anyone listening, if you've got an idea, you're kind of like, I don't know, who are your trusted people? Find them and maybe tell them, right? Because it's a bit scary to think, who am I? Who am I to do this? A book is just a conversation, right? And why not? And so talking with people I trusted made me feel brave enough to give it a try, right?
Your Glimmer Squad is what I'm going to name them. Find your Glimmer Squad.
Find your Glimmer Squad. I love that.
Talk to them, and you get the confidence you need. It's coming back to me. I have the worst memory in the history of the world, but it's coming back to me that day, and you saying it out loud. And sometimes it's like naming your feelings that you were talking about before, saying it out loud and naming it. I think I want to do this. I think I need to do this. And luckily you did, because now other people get to benefit from it, not just, the small circle of us or the NICU people that you've helped and your clients. I was supposed to remind you of something else. What was
audiobook?
Nice.
So the audiobook, it was sort of the same thing, where I was kind of like, I don't know how this, am I allowed to ask about this? But luckily the team at Simon & Schuster, they're the nicest people on the planet. And Nicole, who was the editor and publisher, and she's the nicest human. Oh my goodness. Warmth personified. And so I felt safe in that relationship, being like, excuse me, uh, I would love to do an audiobook. And I have a friend who, his main way of taking in information is audiobooks. And he'd asked me about it. And I was like, I don't know, I'll ask. But because I felt brave enough, because of the kindness of that relationship, I was able to ask. And she was like, yeah, we can make that happen. And so we set aside like hours and hours to do this in the studio in, in the east of Toronto, with the nicest sound engineer, very, very, very calm man, and sat down and did it. And it was really fun.
Can I share something personal there, that you sent us a little sample, our little threesome, and just before you went in to do the taping of it, and both of us on the thread immediately said, "Oh my gosh, how did you do that so quickly? And you've never done one before." But it's the calming Kate way that everybody, I don't know, you had magic to you, and it came out so. It's beautiful, and you just did it so well. And you say it took they booked many hours, but you did it quickly.
We did it pretty fast.
Really fast.
And it was really fun. I did get a funny email from somebody, and I think to be clear, I think this is really sweet. But they're like, "Oh yeah, it puts me right to sleep."
Yes,
that's kind of like, I guess that's a good thing. Okay,
that is a huge compliment.
I will take it as a compliment. I will take it as a compliment.
Right before bed, just listen to Kate. It's fantastic. I love everything about it. Oh, okay. Intentional or not intentional? Because we're talking about creating a book. The cover, the colors, first of all, and what I see, because this is my mind, I see a life raft in the middle of the ocean. What do you see on that beautiful cover, and how did the cover come to be? Who did it? What impact did you have? Tell us more.
So Sebastian Fry. So he not only designed this gorgeous cover, but he also did all the beautiful illustrations in the book. So I really had hoped for illustrations. And the thing is, in publishing as the author, you don't have control over a lot of things. In this, Nicole and everybody on this team, they're so collaborative and so generous and so kind. So they did give me a lot of feedback. But luckily, what I was being shown was like this. So my feedback was always like, "That's beautiful. It's perfect.
Done."
Done. Because Sebastian is just an artist through and through. So I think he designed the whole book. But the illustrations, I mean, they're so gorgeous. And I really love how this looks. And I do think, there is something about, that my favorite colors also, which I just loved. And he didn't know that. He just did it. But it does feel a bit like a life raft, doesn't it?
It completely does to me. Maybe I'm interpreting that because that's what it is to me, but who knows? I will also say that I think Sebastian and Nicole are part of your glitter team, glitter squad. Glitter squad. It's just expanding your glitter squad. I'm sure all the people in the chat are part of it too. Are there any questions? If you have some questions for Kate right now, because we don't have too much time left, please put them in the chat and we will ask her live and in person here. Somebody said, "I love that the chapters are short. It's been helping me immensely during the current hospital stay with my son." So how does that feel, Kate, when you hear that?
Oh, this is the whole point. This is why I wanted to do this, because I think in my hardest moments, I have felt quite alone. And so this idea that this book can be a companion for people in hard moments, like that was the whole point of doing it. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. Any other questions do we have in there? No. Tell us, there's some launch parties and things coming up, events.
There's a lot going on, and I'm hoping that I don't forget anything, but I have a website, katerobson.ca, and I'm trying to put information there, but there is a launch party in Toronto on the 15th, and it's at College and Dovercourt at Society Clubhouse, and come, because it's going to be fun. And there's an event on the 18th in Uxbridge, the Blue Heron, people at Blue Heron Books, loveliest bookstore, but they're putting on a brunch, and that's going to be really great. And the 21st, I'm in Peterborough, talking with a wonderful doctor there, Dr. Thomas Pickett, who's brilliant. I feel like there's other things and I'm forgetting them.
Well, they can find your website and log on and do some more of that, because just seeing it live. And will you be speaking and reading from it a little bit, or Q&As? How's it going to work?
Some of these are going to be speeches. I think I'll be doing a reading at the launch on the 15th, very short one. And questions always welcome. Love to hear what people are saying. Love it when, and if you are a preemie parent, if you ever come to an event, please identify yourselves as such, and I'm going to grab you. I'm going to
put on your purple hat and walk over to her and be part of that glitter squad. We do have a question from a preemie parent right now before we move on. How do we help parents deal with the guilt?
Yeah. So this is where I think every parent probably deals with guilt. And I think for preemie parents, it's amped up a notch. So the active listening is the most important thing, because sometimes we kind of rush to, and I know I did this when I was in the NICU with families trying to support them. No, there's nothing you did. And there's nothing. Probably what they need to do is just get it out. Just talk about how guilty they feel and, everything that's going on for them. And we don't need to agree with it. We can say, that sounds really hard. Tell me more, and eventually, if you give people a lot of time and space to talk about how they're feeling, they usually get there themselves. And it starts sounding like, well, I know it really wasn't anything I did, Now, if you're a clinician and you have actual data or information to prove to them that it was nothing that they did, oh my gosh, please share that. I had a wonderful OBGYN who, when I had preeclampsia I had preeclampsia with both. And I was so upset because I was listening to all these like, CDs. They're supposed to help my blood pressure come down. And she just came in. She actually broke the CD. It was like, this is bleepity bleep bleep. You're in the middle of a physiological process and it's not your fault. And
what a gift.
Yes. Wendy Whittle, love her. Will love her to my dying day. But because she told me
Whittle story, she's awesome and so much fun. Wendy Whittle. I know what I was going to ask you. Can you repeat that again? This sounds hard. What did you say? This sounds hard. What did you?
Just in terms of the active listening piece.
Yeah. That so we can all.
Well, I think this is just those questions in the active listening process where you're just trying to make a lot of space for them to say, so yeah, this sounds really difficult. That idea of like, where are you feeling it? Where's it showing up in your body? And then always making more space. Tell me more. Those are the more. And I do want to acknowledge that for clinicians in hospitals, it's hard because you're really busy. Okay. So it's great if you have family support specialists, if it's great. So I know social work, I know everybody's busy, but if you can make the time to listen, that is 99% of it. Wow. Can I sneak in one more thing about preeclampsia?
Yes, you can. This says in whatever it's all you. Go for it.
Thank you. This has nothing to do with the book really, but I just feel it's my sort of duty because if there's anybody listening who had preeclampsia, I got told this sort of years later that if we've had preeclampsia, we're now in this sort of risk group, right? Where we really have to take our cardiovascular health seriously. Right. And I hadn't been told that before. There was just a big article in the New York Times about this, I think. But regardless, the doctor who told me, she was lovely, but she was just like, yeah, just think of it as you have a lifetime prescription to a gym. And I was like, I wasn't such a fan of exercise, but I listened to her and I took it seriously. And so I just want to share that with other parents who've been through preeclampsia. Please know that you now have a lifetime prescription to a gym. Move your body, do what you can to lower your risk. Because I'm so glad that I listened to that and that I haven't had some of the issues that she was afraid that I would run into.
Thank you for sharing that and being vulnerable and going there because you're helping a lot of people who are out there. Thank you, Kate, for everything you do. I am so excited about this book. I will be at the launch with bells on. All of you get your own copies because it's very smooth to touch. You know it. It's a stem that I could have. And it fits in your purse. I love everything about it and little chunks, and it's pretty. You are brilliant. You are kind. You are so generous, and you care about people, and you really care about this community. So from the bottom of my heart, from all of us, thank you for doing this. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for this book and all of the work that you do for the foundation and preemie families in general. You are amazing, Kate Robson.
Yay. Thank you so much.
Love. Yay. And some taps, some EMDR taps for Kate. Fantastic. Love you, Kate.
Love you too.
Thank you for being here. And for all of you, thank you for watching. If you are watching this live, thanks for being here. You can also watch this recorded again if you want. Go to canadianpreemies.org. And if you missed it, go to the YouTube channel. We have that as well. You can take a second look at it and send it to your friends, because Kate had so many great tips. If you are in the NICU, if you're not in the NICU, all of those wonderful things that she was saying, and her book as well. And get the audiobook so you can fall asleep. We want to also remind you that CPBF is a charitable foundation. So anytime you can be generous, we rely on your generosity in this community to support families in the NICU, for advocating for families, speaking up for babies, amplifying parents' voices, and ensuring that premature babies and their families receive the support that they need. So if you can donate, please do. Also, we have a very exciting new series coming up. I have to sing it because it's very exciting. I have to look at this. It says the Research to Care Outcomes for Preterm Babies series. Episode 1 is starting next week. The topic is infection. Oh, really great information that's going to be coming. That will be next Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So be sure to tune in for that. And that will be a whole series. So you really want to get in on that and learn from it. And you can rewatch them on the YouTube channel at canadianpreemies.org. Thank you all for being here today and your wonderful questions. I feel like I am this much calmer since I've been around Kate. My blood pressure has gone down. I feel safe. I feel heard. I hope all of you do too. And wishing you a wonderful day. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.